All right, everybody. Welcome back to RCT Construction here on Houston Pleasant. This would be episode 4. In episode 3, we just finished working up on the downtown section of the park. And in this one, we're going to start doing kind of the more family-themed area that is found, or was found at Joyland. It is found at Funland, but kind of a little bit of a different style. But off topic and kind of a little bit out of the way here, we're going to start by putting a Ferris wheel at the end of our main street. Wish I had added that in episode 2, but I couldn't decide in the back of my head if I wanted a carousel or a Ferris wheel there. Ended up deciding on a Ferris wheel instead, just because I think it gives a nice visual as guests walk down Main Street there. There's the Ferris wheel, and you can get good views of the front entrance of the park. Moving on, we're kind of lowering some land because I've had people ask what the center feature of the park is going to be. The center feature for this park, the Ferris wheel, and then there's going to be a lake in the middle, and then maybe some seating behind the Ferris wheel to get a nice view there. There's a park. I guess it's not just any park, but Epic Universe, Universal's newest park that opened just this year, has an excellent view with their carousel in the middle, but just a nice big body of water in the middle of the park, which I really like. And then another park the main park I took inspiration for on this build was Six Flags New Orleans. And I just wanted to give that a second life because, as some of you may know, Six Flags New Orleans was finally demolished after sitting abandoned for well over... Actually, I think it was abandoned for 20 years exactly before they started tearing it down. But I wanted to kind of give that vibe, and that was kind of the main inspiration for the park right there. The dust plot there, the... kind of lighter patch, that is going to be where our kiddie coaster is going to go. And the kiddie coaster featured here at Houston Pleasant is actually going to be Mini Mania relocated from Funland. So that's right, at the end of 1998, we are going to close Mini Mania at Funland and then move it over to Houston Pleasant to kind of be their anchor family coaster to start that park's career. I come back to that little plot. I wanted it to kind of stick out over the water a little bit. That's kind of my first attempt to see how it would turn out. Thought it ended up looking okay, but did come back and change it just slightly, and I think it ended up looking better. Another addition we added in there was the train station. Wanted to get cover queue and get the first stop there. The train is going to have 2 stops, and then we're going to get a second car ride in the family area as well. I think car rides are very, very fun rides. They're interactive, and you cannot beat an interactive ride in any way, shape, or form. And then we're going to put our carousel right there, kind of on that little peninsula. And I can't remember which scenario has it, if it's Six Flags Belgium or Six Flags Holland, but one of those two now owned by Wallaby, however you pronounce it. They own those parks now, but I really like one of those parks in the way they're set up right there, where it just kind of juts out and sits over by itself. So we're going to follow that up right there. I changed the car ride colors to black. Just to kind of see how it sat. And so I will eventually end up changing that back to yellow because I thought it kind of stood out. And now we're going to go ahead and start working on a little hot dog stand, because what do kids love more than hot dogs? Because kids usually do not have adventurous palates. So hot dogs are a pretty safe bet. And then soda is also a pretty safe bet when it comes to feeding families at the park. So we're going to get a nice little seating area there, so our guests have a place to sit while they eat. We're going to get our restricted area fence placed around our car ride and a fence around our teacup ride there as well, which is another fun interactive ride for our guests to enjoy. A good couple interactive rides with a good teacup ride anyway. PTC built one called a Crazy Daisy that doesn't have the interactivity where you can grab like the center spindle and then spin the car yourself. I really wanted to make sure I had that at this park, so that's kind of the teacup I was going with for this one. My apologies in the background. I have Funland running through its season. I'm just going to mute that so it doesn't make that noise again. And then you may hear some upset yelling about football. I have Red Zone on in the background here. I have family members in the house also watching Red Zone, watching the Chiefs game. And it's not going particularly well. Unfortunately, we are Chiefs fans. But I cannot ignore my beloved Scott Hansen while we go through a football Sunday. Anyway, continuing on from the off-topicness we were just on, We're going to set up a little... Originally, this was just going to be a merchandise stand where we sold t-shirts and hats, but I ended up growing it into being kind of a second food stand as well. So it's kind of a one-stop shop where guests can get a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different pathways that connect it all together. Chicken nuggets, another safe bet for families at the park. Fries, good safe bet, and then again, soda, safe bet for kids, families. Anyone can enjoy a nice to-go container of chicken nuggies and french fries. Getting the building all set together. This one I was actually pretty proud of. It's not as boxy. It's still pretty boxy, but it's not as boxy as some of my other attempts are. But I think this one ends up looking pretty nice. And then we're just going to match the colors to the car ride in the background and the other buildings in the area. So I think all in all, this building looks okay. I wish I had put maybe some more advertising on it. That's something that could potentially change the further in we go. But I'm pretty happy with the way that one ended up turning out. And as we get closer to the end of the video here, you see me zooming out, seeing, okay, what can I add? What am I missing as we go through? Wanted to add a back door there, an employee access point to our new retail and food building there. Get our fence placed in so guests don't go trample in the grass, kind of keep them contained where we want them. You don't have to fence in, and I don't want to fence in every single pathway. If you just have a couple bushes around, like a corner, a couple shrubs, you don't have to fence those off. So I kind of try to avoid that there. And then right here, I kind of want to put a nice little centerpiece. So I decided on some flowers and just some bushes that sit up top. And then we're just going to make this more of a circular spot and then put a little reflecting pond in the middle there, just to kind of give a little more depth to that entry point to the carousel. And then we're going to continue getting around, and we're going to place this seating spot on the back of the Ferris wheel, just because I think that would be a nice place to go have a seat, get a meal up at the front of the park, and then you can just kind of chill behind the Ferris wheel and maybe look out across the pond, watching other guests have fun or travel around. We're going to go back to our kiddie coaster area here. Again, wasn't a huge fan of the initial rendering. I tried that, wasn't a big fan of it either. But here's where it started to kind of render with me. I used kind of that concrete texture and just lined the entire side of it there. And then I will end up going back yet again after placing some foliage down just to kind of get it all lined up. And I think it ends up looking pretty good, all in all. But just getting some foliage placed. Getting foliage is a really good way to just kind of add a little bit more depth to the park so it doesn't feel so empty. But once all that is done, that is just about all I have for the family area. So thank you guys for tuning in to yet another RCT Construction episode. I'm going to get back to watching NFL Red Zone. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you later.